We love being able to go to the different high school, colleges, middle schools to live broadcast sporting events around the area. Georgia Alabama Sports Live appreciates all the fan support, but without a presenting sponsor like Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC and Opelika, none of this would be possible. So we want to say thank you so much. Go to glennsmith.com. That is right, glennsmith.com. See all the inventory and see why people always say, get ready to smile. Thanks, everyone, and thank you to Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC for being our presenting sponsor. Live from vacation, it's Thrift Barringer, it's Richard Holdridge. Both of us are out of town right now, but that will not stop us talking sports on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. It's the Georgia Alabama Sports Live show brought to you by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. As we like to say, Richard,
get ready to smile.
Richard, I hope you're doing well. Your beard looks excellent. That's how I know you've been on vacation, because the beard starts coming out. We'll talk about how your vacation's been here in just a moment. But everyone that is tuned in so far, what we've done this week, Richard, we had on Monday, you sat down with Assistant Athletic Director for Columbus High and the cross-country coach, Danielle McCoy, to talk Columbus Blue Devils. We will also hit on that, Richard, at some point during this show. And then on Tuesday, also you did no, you didn't do the Columbus High coaches show, excuse me. It was just Columbus High sitting with an AD. But yesterday, we had Calvin Thomas. He was the new AD for Pacelli, really talked about his vision. I do want to say out there, disclaimer, we didn't really hit on all the sports, and they have an excellent programs for the Vikings. Obviously, we know about the flag football, the football, basketball, baseball. All of them have either, contended for state championships or won. But, Richard, the volleyball program is unheralded how good they are, and they're one of the favorites. We'll be hitting them very quickly. And then today we had Joseph Kegler. Tomorrow is Brookstone. And the last three, Smith Station, Central, and Carver. Looking at getting a special guest for Carver. It may not be Pierre Coffey, but someone that hired Pierre Coffey. I'm looking to get Principal Christopher Lindsay. Hopefully he'll be welcoming to come on the show to talk Carver athletics. And then we still have Central and Smith Station. Fans out there, please help us. We just want to talk Panther and Red Devil athletics right here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. All right, enough with that, Richard. How's your vacation been? Have you enjoyed relaxing, recuperating, and get re-energized for this upcoming year?
I really have. It's been just relaxing, just being away for a while. But I know that we still got a lot of stuff going on. But sometimes, you can be away and still try to make it available. And that's why we love technology so much, that we have this opportunity to still do a sports show.
Exactly, Richard. And I've missed you, man. Glad you're back. And we got a special guest on today's show, Jack P. Patterson. Jack is a guy that I love dearly. Jack is a guy that I want to steal all his catchphrases, because what's happening was, I know I butchered
What's up and what's good?
What's up and what's good? He is going to clown me for this when he comes on, but we're going to start our in-depth preview of high school football. Now, our first preview show and how the rest of the year is going to go, we're restarting and recalibrating everything for this upcoming 2024-2025 season. That first show, Richard, will be August the 4th. And that week, we'll start previewing high school football. Throughout the week, we'll do that. And then we'll also have live streaming of softball and volleyball games that week as well. But then the August 11th one is week 1. And we are getting ready. So we can call August 4th week 0. And every Sunday night for the rest of this year, you're going to see Georgia Alabama Sports Live show then. We're going to have one on Saturday mornings and probably on Wednesday, 3 days a week. But we also have other shows like Rick Beach and Kudzu Sports Show, talking Harris County athletics, all things sports with Rick Beach. We got Muscogee County Coaches Show. That's going to be office hours with Kendall Mills, Joseph Kegler, Anson Hunley, and Danielle McCoy, all ADs are working athletic administration. We're going to have them on our platform and many others, Richard. I know you're smiling, so am I. Of course, all the coaches show, Glenwood coaches show, Calvary coaches show. That's going to be year long. Just a lot of content. And we got other talent around our area that are going to be planning on dropping some content for us. So excited about it, Richard. I know you are too.
Well, Thrift, I've been waiting for you to finally say this after 875 episodes and doing my podcast for 4 years. Finally, the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge gets to be dropped on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live platform. I can't wait. I've been waiting for this.
And Richard's show, which he does a podcast 5 days a week, it's going to be a little bit different format. It's more of a scoreboard and update show, everything that we've done that day on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, any high school sports scores you can come and find here. We won't have a lot of highlights, but it's more talking and engaging and telling you what we got coming up the rest of the week. Richard's going to do that throughout the week. We hadn't decided on a time on how many days he'll be doing that, but I know it will be at least 4 to 5 days throughout the week. I know you're excited about that, Rich.
Absolutely.
15 to 30 minutes, just talking everything that we got going on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. And we need this, and I know it gives you that itch to keep the sports beat going and allow it to be on our platform. So thank you for doing that, Richard. Last thing before we bring him on is you interviewed Danielle McCoy, and then I'll talk about my conversation with Calvin Thomas from Pacelli and Joseph Kegler from Spencer. But how was the assistant athletic director from Columbus? It sounded great. The interview was informative. Did you enjoy your time over at Columbus High?
Absolutely. I had to do my research on Columbus High. Coach Danielle McCoy was a fantastic interview. She knew her stuff. I mean, she, as an assistant athletic director, hopefully she'll get an AD position in the future because she is ready, as she has been underneath the AD, Coach Chad Mathis. And I think that when you think of Columbus High, I mean, you got to think of all the athletes. And, I'm a historian. When I look at the history of Columbus High athletics, you think of Sam Mitchell, you think of Mark Upshaw, you think of Frank Thomas, Usain Bassey, you think of Ben Carr, who, by the way, won the amateur championship that's going on right now tomorrow. I mean, great Columbus athletes, and it was a fantastic interview.
Yeah, and I enjoyed being able to hear you, as you did a great job this year interviewing just as many people as I did. I enjoyed talking with Calvin Thomas about his vision in his first year as the AD. He literally just was first day on the job, July 4th or 5th, around that time period. Excuse me, let me rephrase that. It was around July 11th was his first day. So he'd only been on the job for about a week after we talked with him. So thank you to him. Thank you to Joseph Kegler and the Green Waves. Their football program has won back-to-back region championships. They're trying to continue that winning ways and reload instead of rebuild. And then the same thing with the basketball program that won another region championship. It's just winning at a high level in all sports. And we appreciate him. And we also made a joke, Richard, I don't know if you saw, talking about your 6-hour broadcast of Kendrick and Spencer. He said the broadcast moment of the year, and I'm starting to agree with him, is the performance by you. It was very entertaining, but man, what a long broadcast you had to do on that one. It's pretty fun to bring it up.
Yeah, I know that you mentioned Coach Pickett. He does a great job with the Spencer baseball team, also the wrestling coach. And when you think about just great Spencer coaches, you think of Coach Allen, coaching the basketball team and the soccer team, which, by the way, made the playoffs. I mean, so, and of course, he coached the Spencer basketball team to a state title in 2022.
Exactly. All right, let's go ahead and bring him on because we got a lot we're going to dissect. And I know he's busy. He's got the news that he's doing at 11 o'clock tonight. His name is Jack Patterson. He's my really good friend from WRBL, the sports director there. What is up, JP?
Yeah, I'm going to clown you, right?
Yes, and it's every time. It is consistent, at least, Jack. I'm going to mess it up, but this is why you're you and I am who I am, which is not good at catchphrases, and you are the modern-day Seward Scott.
Well, that is high praise, and I don't take that lightly, but it's, hey, everybody, what's up and what's good?
I don't know how I messed it up. It's easy. It's simple. It's quick to the point, and it gets you ready to do some highlights. But before we go into that, we got a lot we're going to talk about. But how have you been? Now this is going on, about to be, is this year 2 or are we about to hit on year 1? This is year 1, correct? That we're still in? The sports director, I'm now lost my train of thought on that, Jack.
You're good. You're good. So I'm getting ready to finish my second year. It'll be 2 years in October.
Right. Okay. So it's 2022 is when you took over the opportunity to be the sports director.
Yeah. So it will be 2 years in October for that. It'll be 5 years of full-time sports at the beginning of October. So 2 years sports director at the end of October, 5 years full-time sports at the beginning of October. And then this will be my 12th football season working at WRBL.
You love the prep zone. But Jack, how's everything been on your end? I know you've been able to get some vacations out, enjoy some family time. But we are about to be, a week, 2 weeks away from the prep zone. I know you are, it's like about to burst out. How excited you are.
Man, it's my favorite time of year. 3 weeks from Friday night is the first prep zone on August 16th. And I did get a chance to, spend some time with the family. Got to take my wife out, celebrated our first anniversary a few weeks back. So got a chance to, be around the family, be around the wife. And, you try to, especially this year because our summer wasn't as busy as it's been in past years, that, I tried to make the most of that time because, you guys, understand that once football season hits, it's like, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays, we're at some field that's not home. So you try your best to, get that family time in and, be able to spend some time with your loved ones before, the season really kicks into high gear and you're running around with your head cut off.
Jack, let's comment. I mean, there's many directions I want to go in when talking and starting this conversation, which is high school football in this area it's becoming now where it's the top sport, obviously, in which everyone cares about. I'm not saying that we don't have talented other teams, because we have shown that we are more than just a football town, as all the other sports have elevated. But this is something been a carrier of the top sport for quite some time. Now you're heading into year 12, and this is now year 3 as sports director, year 5 in sports in general. What are you looking forward to the most when we're talking about high school football in this area and where it's came the last 15 to 20 years?
Thrift, when I first started here, I think back, so that's the 2013 season, okay? Back in those days, it's so different now, even the powerhouses, I think back in 2013, Central was a 500 team that season. Okay. Central was a 500 team that year. Oh, man, I can't remember. I think it was 2013 might've been Joe Kegler's last season at Carver. I can't remember that exactly, but it was sometime in that time frame. But then after Coach Kegler left, Carver had a downturn, and then I look at, that was when I first started, that was the tail end of the Taquan Marshall, Tay Crowder era at Harris County. That was the beginning of all the great teams that started coming out of Callaway High School. It's, and Opelika, that was Opelika's last appearance in the state championship game. It was so different back then compared, and I look at it now, back then Sly County was a pushover team. It was a homecoming game. And now we see Sly County as one of the top teams in the state. You see Manchester has returned to its past form as one of the best teams in the state. You look at everybody in Troup County, Troup, LaGrange, and Callaway, they're all contenders. Okay. You look back down here in Columbus, back at those times, Brookstone, they were that team that, just couldn't push over it. But now they went to a state championship game last year. Pacelli was a state champion 2 years ago. Okay. You have Calvary Christian. When I first started here, Calvary Christian barely had a program. Okay. And they've won a state title. And now they're in the GIAA this year. That's a storyline for this coming up year. And, obviously Central, they've won 2 state titles in my time here. And you talk about Glenwood going to 2 state championship games, and now they're going to the AHSAA this year. So many storylines coming up this year that, the reclassification has everybody in the state of Georgia in new regions for this year. Is new teams that we haven't seen these teams play. And for a couple people, it's a resumption of some rivalries. Like, for example, here in Columbus, you get everybody, with the exception of the North Side, in the same region. It hasn't been like that in almost 10 years. So that's a change, for some who, may be new to the area. But, for me, that's how I grew up. When I was at Shaw, everybody was in the same region, plus the LaGrange schools in Harris County. So now it's everybody in the same region with the exception of Northside and Harris County and the LaGrange schools. But you add Sumter County, that's going to be in that region with the Columbus schools. So that's going to be something that we keep an eye on. It's just so many different storylines, and it would probably take us from now until kickoff to really go through all of them, to be honest, because there's so many different storylines this season.
Jack, talk about In the Trenches. Episode 1 dropped. Is this something that going on your 3rd season? That first season, Rex Castillo and Drew Plata did Shaw. And then year 2, Carver. Carver was the first season. The second season was Shaw. That was last year. And now you have the defending 7A champion Central Red Devils. I think it's really been long overdue. I know that everybody, especially in Phoenix City, cares about Central. It feels like a college town. I know a lot of people that went to Central, that support Central. I mean, they were even on ESPN a couple years ago when they were playing IMG Academy. I mean, this is the perennial program in the Chattahoochee Valley. You've got players playing at the next level like Justin Ross with the Kansas City Chiefs. You got J.D. McKissick. You got Cam Coleman, who's probably going to be the number 1 target for Bailey Thorne at Auburn this year. Just talk about what Central means to Phoenix City and how exciting is the fact that you guys have Central as part of In the Trenches.
Richard, one of the best things about In the Trenches, and before I even start, the work that Rex and Drew are doing on In the Trenches, I've said this, and I'll say it publicly, okay? Mark my words. They're going to win an Emmy for the work they're doing with In the Trenches. That's how good In the Trenches. Drew just showed me episode 2 that's coming out it's coming out next week. And it is phenomenal. Okay. And I can't wait for everybody to see it. But, when you talk about football in our area and you talk about the history in our area, you can't go too far without talking about the Central Red Devils. And that's the beautiful thing about In the Trenches, because it's not just, the season preview where we go talk to the coach and talk to a couple of players. Those are important. Don't get me wrong. I just spent 2 days doing a lot of them in Opelika. But, when you get the opportunity to go more in depth and show, and that was, what we got to show with Carver, and that's what we got to show with Shaw, is that you get to see the tradition and the pageantry and, the passion and what it means to these people. Okay. And it comes through the camera. Okay. I don't care if it was with Carver or with Shaw or with Central. Like, you can feel the passion, and it comes through the camera from the interviews that we've gotten over the years. And Central's no different, and you'll get to see a good bit of that in episode 2 coming up. It's a lot of fun. And, like I said, the work that Rex and Drew do with this is incredible, and to be able to do a defending champion, you don't see that from anywhere, much less, a local television station, so to be able to do it and do it at this level is just a testament, not just to what Rex and Drew are doing. It's a testament to our management to give them the green light to do it. And it's a testament to the schools that allow us to do it, whether it was Coach Coffey and Dr. Lindsay over at Carver, or if it was Coach Harrison and Coach Gardner over at Shaw last year and Dr. Hendrick, or if it's this year where it's all the administration, Coach Bell, the AD, Coach Nix, the administration over at Central. Like, this is unprecedented stuff that you don't see from that you don't see high school teams get this kind of, let's just be real. It's a documentary series. Yeah. And you don't see that at this level. And it's something different. And it's something that, we've seen over the years that people like, and they, anticipate what's coming next. And, to be able to do the defending champs who has such a following in our area, it's a big deal. And I'm glad that we were able to do it. And I'm glad that people get to see, the pageantry and the passion and, everything we see with the Central, that we see any given time that we go over to Garrett Harrison Stadium, it's on full display anytime you go to a Central game. But, I'm also glad that people get to see the work that Rex and Drew can do as well.
No doubt. Those guys are immensely talented. I was literally just talking to Rex about it. Blown away. Can't wait to see the next episode. High-level production from those guys, your partners over at WRBL.
Beginning of episode 2 is electric, by the way. I don't know how Rex and Drew did it together. I don't know how they did it. I like to fancy myself as a good editor. I used to be an editor back before I did full-time sports. Right. But the way they did the opening for episode 2 is so freaking dope, and I can't wait for everybody to see it.
I can't wait either, the way you're talking about it, Jack. All right, we're going to split this up in a few categories, knock them out, talk a little SEC with you, some Falcons, and then we're going to let you go, man, because we'll have you on plenty more to talk other sports. By the way, I just want to say a quick shout-out to the Columbus United soccer team that made it to Nationals. They're one of 4 teams left out of 96 that started in the NPSL, and they could win a national championship in year 1 of the organization. Richard, I know it's last minute, but, man, it'd be pretty cool if we could try to get Coach Teach on. But just congratulations to them, Jack. That's awesome to see that from someone in our area. We could have, just like the Lions, top-class organizations all around the Columbus sports.
I mean, it's pure insanity to think that they're going to be in the U.S. Open Cup. Okay, like that's not that is a major deal. Okay,
they could play Atlanta United.
Exactly, they could legitimately have. It is mind blowing for me to think, and when I saw the announcement, the other day after the game that they had won and they had made it into the Open Cup, to realize that, man, how insane would it be to have Atlanta United play Columbus United at Connect Stadium in a U.S. Open Cup match? Because that is possible. Okay? And that's the beauty of the U.S. Open Cup, is that you see these high-level teams. You see the MLS's, the USL teams, they're playing these teams. And, and in some cases, beating these teams. Okay?
Right.
So that's something that, this is a major, major, major deal for Columbus United. And it just goes back to show that this is an everything town. Right. Okay. It is an everything town. Okay. It just seems like this year Columbus has been successful in pretty much everything they have competed in this year. And it just goes to show the kind of sports town this place is. This place is built different. Okay. And once again, the sports that you have in this area, whether it's the pro or the semi-pro, or the high school, or heck, even the little league, because all the little leagues keep winning, it, it's just different here. It really is just different.
That's why they like to say just means more in the SEC. Well, we're part of the South, and it's just sports mean more around here. All right, like I said, we're going to split up in a couple categories, and we'll try to attack them as briefly. It won't be into too much detail because, again, like Jack said, you could spend a lot of time. We cover close to 16 schools, maybe 18. Jack, you close, I think it's over 30. How many are in your area?
Somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 50.
Okay, yeah. So it's a lot that you're having to cover. We're not going to cover, obviously, near as much, but we'll stick to the schools that we do cover around here. It's 16 of them, and we'll start Muscogee County. We'll lump them all in together, just like we're going to lump the private schools and then the Alabama schools that we cover here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Muscogee County. A couple of names that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about Spencer, who's won back-to-back region champs, and that was the first time. And I'm talking about, I don't even know how long, 20, 30 years. And what Coach Kegler has built there, They expect big things. When I talked with him, we just had a set of the programs that literally just dropped just a little over an hour ago, Jack. So I think obviously Carver, who made it to the semifinals last year and returns a majority of their team. They're so young and talented, and Coach Coffey trying to win a state championship over there first since Dale McGee. They also moved down a classification. So 7 of the 8 Muskogee County schools are in the same classification in the same region. So we could have 4 Muskogee County schools that make it this year in this region. What are you thinking with Muskogee County? And then Northside returns, I think, the best quarterback between him and Alford in this area with Caden Clay. I like the talent. I like what I'm going to see from all the Muskogee County schools. What do you think, Jack?
So I'll start with Region 22A, which is the region that you're speaking of that has 7 of the 8 Muskogee County public schools in it. And like I said, this is a throwback. This is a throwback to the old Region 23A. For those who paid attention in the late 2000s, early 2010s, this is the old Region 23A. The only difference is no Northside, no Harris County, no LaGrange, Troup County, and no LaGrange. In that stead, you have Sumter County. That is the one team that is not immediately from Columbus, the Columbus area, that is in this region. And it's going to bring back a lot of rivalries that we've lost over the last few years because of the splitting of the splitting apart of the regions and everybody, playing, elsewhere. You're going to, Carver Spencer, it's a region game again. It hasn't been a region game in a good while. Okay. And then you have the other rivalry games that are going to be going to be back, and they're going to be region games. All right. You're going to have the rivalries like Columbus Hardaway. That's back as a region game. You're going to have Shaw Carver. That's back as a region game. Okay. And the ante's going to be raised because these games matter more. These games are going to be, where you're, opportunity to the playoffs. And, honestly, I see where, looking at, last year and then where these teams are going to be, I think it's going to be an outright dogfight for these playoff spots. I mean, you're going to have Carver and Spencer competing. They're both coming off of region championships. But then I think you're going to have teams like Shaw, who's on to come up with Coach Gardner in the second year. I think you're going to have Hardaway. Coach McKenzie is a really good coach, okay? And they had a rough go of it last year. I don't think it's going to be just like that, in year 2 as well. Then you've got Columbus and their new head coach, and forgive me, his name leaves me because I got to remember like 40 of them. But
Bob Peters, the new Columbus head coach.
Thank you, Coach Peters. I could not remember it, but thank you, Richard. But he's been under Coach Marino's staff for a long time, so there's continuity there. All right, and then a couple of teams you got to watch out for. You had Kendrick, who won 3 games last year. One of their better seasons in a long time, and then I got, and then I look at a team like Jordan too, and everybody, likes to look past Jordan, okay? Because they haven't had that success, okay? But I like the culture that Coach Jenkins has created there, and I think at a certain point is going to pay dividends. And I think the opportunities are there where if they could just get that consistency. Because I felt like they had a couple opportunities to win games last year, but they just couldn't get the consistency down. If they can get the consistency down, I think Jordan can actually, win games. And is the outlooks for all these teams in the city are up just because of, everything's compact together. These teams, okay? These games mean more, okay? I promise you, these games are going to be some of the better regular season games we've seen in a long time around here just because everybody knows everybody and everybody's going to, just crank it up just a little bit more when you realize it's a region game and it's people that you know.
All right, Jack, I do want to talk about the Alabama schools. We're going to start with Russell County. Coach Dylan Griggs entering his 4th year. I know that they really shook up the entire Chattahoochee Valley in year 1 when he went 6-4. They had a lot of injuries, playing in a brutal schedule in 6A. But it's going to be a little bit different. Carver Montgomery has gone up to 7A. They have to play Rehoboth. They got to play Percy Julian. I'm excited about their senior quarterback. Junior quarterback. He was a sophomore last year. Bryson Riggins. He came in last year in place of Robert Calhoun and passed for 25 touchdowns. I do believe that Coach Griggs is building a culture at Russell County. And I think that Russell County that could have easily started 2-0 last year. I mean, if it wasn't for a walk-off field goal against Harris County and then a last-second play against Stanhope
And
Elmore.
by the way, that united Harris County too, which we'll talk about. So do you think about if Russell County wins that, do they have a similar year that Harris County did? And that shows you what these games mean early in the season. Go ahead, Richard.
Yeah, margin of error, the margin of victory is just like millimeters. But I do think that what Coach Griggs is building, Coach Brian Harrison at Smith Station entering his third year, and then, of course, we know what Coach Patrick Nix is doing at Central. I think that Central has to be the favorite in 7A, but you can't count out Thompson. You know, Thompson, they were the 4-time champions, and Central dethroned them last year, but they still have Trent Siebert, who is, I believe, a sophomore. You know, he won a state title when he was an 8th grader.
Wow.
But what do you think about the public schools in East Alabama, Smith Station, Russell County, and Central?
So I'll start with Russell County since that's where you started at. You know, I got to talk with Coach Griggs yesterday at Media Days in Opelika, and this is his 4th year here, like you mentioned, and this is his team. These are the guys who, you know, the seniors this year were freshmen when he got there. Okay, so this is fully his squad now. Okay, and you know, you talked about Riggins, who's been a revelation at quarterback for them. I think he's going to be fantastic. I think the road is a little bit easier for him this year in this region. Not saying it's, you know, easy by any stretch, but last year they were in an absolute gauntlet and every little thing mattered. And that was the difference for them between being out of the playoffs and being in the playoffs. So I honestly think that this year is going to be the year where Russell County is going to be able to make some noise and make it back to the playoffs. I've got a lot of confidence in that squad. Now, over to Smith Station, I talked with Coach Garrison today at Media Days. And last year was about, you know, building the culture, setting the foundation, okay? You know, getting the guys to buy in, you know, and it's a high level thing to ask when you're playing in what Opelika coach Brian Moore, you know, compared to the old SEC West. Okay, Region 2 7A, and you know, there's no room for error. Okay, and you know, it showed last year, but he's hopeful that, you know, after getting that year of, you know, a year under the belt, that they can, you know, start, you know, improving. That's what you want to see, is you want to see improvement. And I also found this out today as well, that Smith Station's new principal is Adam Johnson. He is the former principal over at Beulah High School, which is over in Lee County. And the reason why I bring that up is because I've seen what Coach Johnson, he's a former football coach. I've seen what Coach Johnson has done with the facilities at Beulah. They're getting a new football stadium that's being built right now. They got a new weight room. And the reason why I bring that stuff up is that Smith Station is going to get the things they need to be successful. Okay. And, you know, and there is a correlation to that stuff. You know, I brought this up earlier this summer when I was talking to a couple of coaches, and in all the News 3 viewing area, and, you know, our viewing area is obviously bigger than you guys' coverage area, but everybody but Opelika that had a indoor football facility made it to the playoffs last year. And the majority of those teams made it past the second round. Mm-hmm. So there's a correlation to the success that you have. So, you know, those facility upgrades and, you know, the equipment that you have does play a role in what, you know, how well you do. So I think what Coach Garrison is trying to build, plus the addition of Coach Johnson, I honestly think that it may not be this year, but it's coming. That I think Smith Station will get back on the map and get back competitive again. Last year was a rough year. They took some lumps, but I think that, you know, if you know, just give them some time, I think that the tide will change at Smith Station. And then obviously the Central Red Devils, you know, The title of the first episode of In the Trenches, heavy is the head that wears the crown, okay? The target will be on their backs this year going into the 2024 season. But as you guys know, Central's not afraid to play anybody.
No.
So they're already playing. They're playing some team from Missouri this year. They're not afraid of anyone, and they'll play anybody at any given time. Obviously you have to replace Cam Coleman, who graduated last year, but you still have Andrew Alford, who has been amazing for them last year, and he'll be back for his senior season. And you still got a lot of talent on both offense and defense. And honestly, I know you mentioned Thompson. I'm not one to count out Thompson because that's a team that's been there and that's a team that's done that. But you can't count out Central either. You definitely cannot count out Central. So, it wouldn't surprise me if you have those two teams meet again. But you also got to remember that on this side of the bracket, you still got the Auburn Tigers that Central's got to deal with too. And, we've known that in the last, 7-8 years, it's either been Auburn or Central that's going to play for the Super 7. So, you can't count either one of those teams out. But, I really do like Central's chances to make it back. But once again, in that region, in Region 278, nothing is given.
Jack, 4 private schools. We'll hit on them quickly. Harris County. We'll try to hit on them quickly because I want to have time before we get on Brett Teach, because Coach Teach is coming on for Columbus United, and I know you're going to be busy. So before we run out of time, I do want to talk SEC and Falcons with you. For the private schools, obviously with Brookstone, I just talked with Coach Rance Gillespie. That interview will drop on Thursday, and he is first 2 seasons at Brookstone, was a play away from playing in the state championship year 1 and almost won a state championship, made it to the state championship game in year 2. This guy has got one of the best acumen and the best resumes in our area in terms of coaches, and I think Brookstone's going to be a formidable opponent. Pacelli obviously is a team that's always going to be a contender with Coach Dwight Jones. But these are the 2 biggest stories for me. I want you to touch on those 2, but these 2 specifically. Calvary moving to the GIAA last year was literally inches from winning a state championship and got stopped at the goal line in gaps. This is a different animal, and Coach Brunson knows what is expected playing in the big bag GIAA. And then you're in the same region as Brookstone and Pacelli. On the flip side, across the bridge, Glenwood is heading into the public school sector, 3A, where they got to play teams like Valley, Beauregard, and I can't wait to see how their season pans out. What is your expectations with the private schools that we cover here on Georgia Alabama Sports Live?
All right, so let's start in town. We'll start with Brookstone. And you talk about Rance Gillespie's acumen. The man still gives me nightmares for the things he did to my Shaw Raiders my freshman year against Peach County in 2006, okay? The man has been there and done that, all right? And, he's won pretty much everywhere he's been. And, to see where he's brought this Brookstone program in just 2 short years is remarkable. And they're going to be a threat once again. So will Pacelli, okay? Both of those teams will be threats to make it to the state championship. Think about it. The last 2 years, they've played each other in the playoffs.
Right.
So it wouldn't surprise me if it happens again, okay? No, what will really be crazy is if they play each other for the state championship, which is a possibility.
Yeah, they remember Elite 8, quarterfinals last year, semifinals in year 2 years ago. So you're right. The next step would obviously be the state championship game.
It's possible. So, but both of those teams will be contenders. So now let's flip over to Calvary. They're making their move to the GIAA, and they're making their move into that same region with Brookstone and Pacelli. And, I'll say that there may be some growing pains, okay? You're talking about a team that's coming from the gaps that was dominant in the gaps, okay? But, the GIAA, it's a whole different ball game. And this is not the GIAA 1A, it's GIAA 4A. So
right.
It's gonna be a challenge, and I'm certain that Coach Brunson and his fellows will be up for the challenge. But at the same time, it's not gonna be a cakewalk. Okay, it's not like they're gonna waltz in there and just start wrecking everybody. So I think there may be some growing pains, but give that team time. And I think the fact that they're gonna be playing in a more competitive league is going to bode well for that program going to the future. Okay. I really do think that's going to bode well for them going into the future. And honestly, it's the same thing with Glenwood. They're going to be in 3A in the AHSAA. They're going to be in the same region as their rival Lee Scott, but they'll also be in the same region as Beulah, the school I mentioned earlier. So they'll be in that region. They'll play teams like BB Comer and Dadeville and stuff like that. And then Glenwood opening the season. Okay, no warming up in the bullpen. We're going to schedule Valley, a Class 5A school. So that went to the playoffs last year. So, once again, one of those situations where they ain't really scared to play nobody. So why not? So I'm really looking forward to that game to kick off the season and looking forward to see where Calvary and Glenwood shape up in their new leagues and see, hey, how does that first year go out? I do think that Glenwood can be a playoff team in that region. It's a tough region though. So they're going to have to, be about their business. Obviously Glenwood, they've got to replace Dallas Crow at quarterback.
Right.
But if they could find that stability at quarterback, I think they could be a playoff team in that region for sure.
Last team and last school we're going to talk about before Richard transitions to SEC Media Days reactions. Harris County last year had the best year in school history. We love having Rick Beach on. He's a correspondent for Harris County and just a big part and contributor of Georgia Alabama Sports Live. They replace a lot on that offensive line, specifically at quarterback with Levi Watson. You replace the Beast and Matei Yeoman. You do return back your speedy receiver in Ogletree, but it's a lot they're having to replace on a very talented roster that made it all the way to the quarterfinals, won over 11 games, and beat the teams like Sandy Creek, defending champions, beat Russell County. Honestly, if they played Troup County later in the season, they probably would have beat them other than the first game, but was competitive against them. Talk about Harris County, because Coach Tommy Watson, great developer of talent. They also are changing regions, still in that same one with Northside, but they got some heavy hitters coming into their new region in 4A.
Absolutely. There's some straight up, it's going to be a murderer's row of a region if you want. As opinion, we got like 4 of those in our viewing area.
Right.
Where you look at, but that region is going to be very, very tough. I got the chance to talk to Coach Watson and the guys a couple of weeks ago when I went up there for the training camp tour, and the mission there is they know that they're not going to sneak up on anybody this year. Okay, so the mission here is now let's bring the new guys up, get them ready, and then let's go out here and play Harris County ball. Coach Watson, he's, when I first talked to him, he said, listen, they were a couple years ago, they were really young and it showed. Okay. But now they've got those guys who are now veterans and they have the opportunity to go out here and show what they can do. So I like Harris County, and I really like, even though they are having to replace somebody like Matei and like Levi, I still like where they're at right now. And it's just going to be about, can they get those new guys up and ready to rock as they get ready for the season. And, like I said, it's going to be a tough region. They've got a couple of games that, that's going to help them get ready. They're renewing their rivalry with Manchester. That's going to be a big game. So I'm really anticipating to see what this Harris County team is going to look like in a couple of weeks.
Jack, transitioning to college football, the 3 SEC schools that we cover here in the Fountain City, Georgia, Auburn, and Alabama. What was your takeaway from SEC Media Days, and what's the vibe like that these teams can compete coming up for this upcoming season?
Well, obviously, the big thing is, with all the changes in the SEC, so that's what everybody's talking about. But, obviously, the next biggest thing that everybody's talking about is Nick Saban being away, retiring from the University of Alabama. In steps Kalen DeBoer, and, there were some changes within the roster. Some players transferred out, some players transferred in. So, it's going to be, what Alabama are we going to see? Are we going to see the same Alabama that runs roughshod over pretty much everybody? Or, is this going to be a downturn for Alabama? How does Kalen DeBoer, granted, DeBoer took Washington to the national championship last year. So it's not like he's afraid of the big stage because he was on the big stage. Right. But, once again, cliche. It just means more in the SEC. The spotlight's bigger, the spotlight's brighter. Can he would he be able to handle that? Would those new players be able to handle that? That's going to be what we're looking at for Alabama. Is that traditional Alabama consistency and that Alabama dominance? Is it there? And then for Georgia, you still have Carson Beck at quarterback. You still have your pillars on defense and Michael Williams and Malachi Starks. Okay. The beautiful thing about Georgia is they're running back you. So even when you have a guy like Kenny McIntosh graduate or move on or whatever, you have guys like Branson Robinson, who's going to be coming off of injury, but he's going to be ready to rock and roll. It's not a rebuild situation in that backfield. It's a reload situation in that backfield. So that's what you're going to be looking for Georgia is just, can they stave off the injury bug and can they keep that consistency going, okay? And can they get past Alabama once again, get past the SEC championship? Because that's been really the only thing that's tripped them up in the last 2 years is Alabama. And then for Auburn, year 2 under Hugh Freeze, year 2 for Peyton Thorne, obviously Cam Coleman. We saw what he did in the spring game. The man looked like a juggernaut on the field. He's going to be a difference maker for the Tide this year. And then Tigers. Wow, Jack. That's the delirium talking. My bad. But he's going to be a difference maker for the Tigers. And he might be a difference maker for the Tide in the Iron Bowl too, now that I think about it. But he's going to be a big-time player for Auburn as well. You got a guy like Dalen Upshaw who's going to be Dylan Gentry, not Dalen Upshaw. Dylan Gentry, who's going to be a big-time player for them as well. And then the offensive line has gotten revamped. Tate Johnson for Callaway, he's still there. He's still going to be a part of it. You still got Zykevius Walker from Sly County, who's still going to be a part of that defense. Like I said, you got, man, I'm forgetting a lot of names today. The kid from Lochapoka that's playing DB for Auburn, I can't remember his name.
Is it J.C. Hart?
Thank you, J.C. Hart. He's going to be a difference maker for that Auburn secondary, and they're going to need him to be a difference maker for that secondary. If, like I said, Auburn's not far off from where they need to be, but they just need to shore up. They need to have a definite answer at quarterback. Is Peyton Thorne going to be the guy? Can he make the plays? Okay. For as far as the backfield, unfortunately, we know the situation with Brian Battie. Fortunately, he's getting better, but he's not walking on that field. Okay. So you're going to have to find a number 2 back that's going to spell Jarquez Hunter. Okay. Because you need a 2-headed backfield. It's just how the game is now. So you're going to be looking for somebody that can help spell Jarquez Hunter. And then can somebody besides Cam Coleman spark that receiving room? I think the offensive line is going to be fine, but that secondary, they're going to have to step up too. And then I think the best thing about it is if Auburn's ever in need of a field goal, they're going to be about as automatic as anybody in the country because you have Alex McPherson. And then if he goes down, you have Towns Magoo from Auburn, who was kicking 58-yarders in the spring game. So that, like I said, a lot to be seen for Auburn, but I'm really antsy and anticipated to see what they're going to look like this year.
I can't wait to see how the Georgia Bulldogs navigate throughout what I think is one of the toughest schedules in the history of college football. And people are like, are you kidding me? Have you seen other people's schedule recently? We've had some tough ones. They play Clemson that could be a top 10, top 15 team to start the season. You got on the road top 5 matchups in Alabama and Texas. And then, oh, by the way, at Ole Miss, Jack, I forgot to mention that. You got Auburn come to your place, Kentucky. I mean, it is incredible. If they go undefeated, this will be the greatest resume put up there with that 2011 LSU team. Remember, they beat West Virginia, that won the Big East. They beat Oregon, that won the Pac-12. And then obviously what they beat in Alabama, everything they did in the SEC. That schedule was great. They never won a national championship, but just to have to go through that gauntlet, that is every single week getting the best from the best. It's going to be tough. I think 2 lost Georgia teams in the playoff for sure. 1 lost Georgia team, that's automatic. Undefeated, same thing. But Georgia, they don't have a very, very small room for error when it comes to their gauntlet of a schedule. Last thing, Jack, is the Falcons. Our man Swag Cousins is pulling up with his old Atlanta Hawks jersey. I don't know who he was wearing. Was it Neek?
I think
Do
it
you
was
know?
Mookie Blaylock.
Okay, Mookie, who was a great player, by the way. But with this Falcons team, are they in a position now heading into training camp, reading up? This is now when football season starts. Do you feel like the Falcons are the team to beat in this division? Is it Tampa Bay? Is it New Orleans? Carolina? We just hoping to get to 500. Where do you see the Falcons? And then beyond that, are they just a playoff team, Jack, that's happy to get in? Are they a team, and I think a pretty wide open NFC? Are they so far behind the Lions and the 49ers and the Eagles? You're just glad that they even make the playoffs next year.
So I'll start with question number one. I think the Falcons should be the favorites in the NFC South because honestly, when I look at this team, we're talking about a team that's maybe 2-3 plays away from being division champions last year. Okay. And the biggest reason why they weren't is because of quarterback play. They couldn't get the ball in the end zone. Okay. I think you're going to have the opportunity to utilize your weapons more. You're going to see a lot more out of Kyle Pitts. You're going to see more out of Bijan Robinson. You're going to see more out of Drake London. Okay. I really like their how they're going to look this year just because the ball's going to get to them. That was the biggest problem that the Falcons had. They couldn't get the ball to their playmakers.
Right.
So I really like, where they're going to be there as far as, making runs and stuff like that. I'm hesitant to go that deep right now just because I don't know what this team's going to look like. I know what it looks like on paper, and on paper, they should be a contender to make it to the Super Bowl. But, I'm, wanting to see, how does Kirk Cousins look? How does that defense look? Okay. If the defense looks great, if Cousins playing, 80% of what he traditionally plays, the Falcons are going to be, in a good spot. But it's just, waiting to see what that team's going to look like. I'm really interested to see, obviously, training camp's getting started. I'm really, intrigued to see what this team's going to look like as we get ready to start the season in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I can't wait either, Jack. And listen, Falcons fans, we've been through a lot. Obviously, everyone knows this. We just want a team that's going to be consistently on the same page, front office, coach, and then having the players that buy into the vision. I'm not asking for a world championship this year. I'm just asking for what could be a bright future in the next 3 or 4 years and be a consistent winner. That's something they had during the Matt Ryan era for about 4 or 5 years. And in total, from 2008 to 2017, making the playoffs many times they did, win the division, make it to the Super Bowl, 2 NFC championships, the greatest era in Falcons history.
Absolutely.
And so it has been done because that was before that, the Falcons couldn't even have back-to-back winning seasons, let alone playoffs in back-to-back years. So I just want a team that's going to show they are progressing, getting better. I like the coaching move now the more with Raheem Morris. I'm excited, Jack. I know you are too. So we'll see what happens. Didn't want to talk Braves tonight. We're going to have Tyler on next week. There's nothing really to say other than they suck right now. I have a ton of injuries, and the trade deadline's next week. So let's just hold off on any criticism we have for the Braves, right, Jack?
All I'm going to tell you is this, man, is that, I saw a list of all the players that are from the Braves that are on the injury list right now, and you could probably field an all-star team with it.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show. And the fact is that you have all those players injured, and you're still the number 1 wild card. Okay. So I think that's more of a testament of how good the team actually is. The fact that they have all these injuries and they're still in playoff contention. So, it is what it is at this point. You can't play high level baseball when half your team is basically from AAA.
Right.
So, it's really just, can they tread water until they can get healthy? Can they tread water until Albies Harris gets back healthy, until you get some arms back in that bullpen? If they can do that, then maybe we can see something. But obviously the trade deadline will play a role as well.
Jack, thank you so much. Appreciate you, man. where can everybody watch the highlights tonight? And what do you got on the docket? And how can everybody follow you for the rest of the week? And what do you got planned coming up the rest of the week at WRBL?
So rest of the week, we're really going to hit these high school football previews hard. Tonight, we're doing Opelika and Lynette. So we'll have those coming up tonight at 11 o'clock on the night watch. And really going to be, previewing a lot of the teams that we got at media days. We still got a few Columbus teams that we've got to hit. We still got to get to, we got Muskogee County media days coming up next week and Brookstone media day next week as well. But we still got a few other Columbus teams and a few other Georgia teams we've got to hit up as well before we get this season kick started. So you're going to be, if you want to see, your team preview is going to be coming up on WRBL in the next few days. So you definitely want to tune in for sure.
It's Jack Patterson. We'll be talking to you throughout the season, man. Look forward to hearing from you real soon. Thank you, JP.
Anytime, fellas.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we got the Columbus United head coach. We've had him on all season. And each week, it's like, all right, well, you did something great, but this is probably going to be the end. And he keeps defying the odds. We'll talk with him just after the break. It's Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Check out these great offers at Glenn Smith and Opelika.
At Glenn Smith GMC in Opelika, you can own one of the best-selling vehicles in the USA, the GMC Sierra pickup. Right now, discounted up to $15,500 off. The roomy and comfortable compact SUV, the GMC Terrain, is up to $7,750 off.
Choose from over 400 new and used vehicles on the lot or on the way to Glenn Smith and Opelika. Get ready to smile.
I'm smiling right now. Jared does a great job, and we appreciate Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Let's go ahead and bring him on. He has now become a big part of what we do here on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show, and in year one is playing for a national championship. Coach, let's go back to after week, I think 2 or 3, when you had your first home game, to now. What have you seen from your team that I feel like it has just been incredible in year one, defying the odds, and these group of players really saying, why can't it be us holding the trophy in the end?
Yeah, I think the reality is we were just learning how to play together and all that. And I think going on the road for our first 5 games was tough. We're actually 9-1-1 since then. So I think once we started getting some home games, some opportunities to, not have to get in the bus and drive 11 hours or 9 hours, I think we were able to have full weeks of training because we kept missing the Friday sessions because we were traveling. And I think after about game 4, I think it was the game that we beat Naples here, I told the guys at that point, because I'd seen everybody we were playing at that point. And I told the guys, I said, look, if we play our best and the opponent plays their best, we will beat them. Because right now, our best is going to be a little more than the guys that I had seen to that point. Now, if we are anything less than our best, then we could lose to any of them at any time. And quite frankly, outside of Pensacola, the loss in our final game, they've done that. And they've done it competitively, and we found ways when we weren't playing well to get results, and when we were playing well, we've managed momentum because all the teams we played are good. Right. So, whenever you play good teams, they're going to have momentum. They're going to have moments in games. And so I think the guys have just gotten to the point where, they expect we're going to win. And instead of looking ahead at, oh, wow, the next step's the Final Four, the next step's the national title game, they're really focusing on that play, that moment. And that's really what you have to do. I'm fortunate in my career. I've been in many of these situations as a coach. And where you get into trouble is when you start worrying about the next rung and you haven't completed the rung you're on. And I think we had a little bit of that in Texas, where we were up 3-0, kind of worried about, okay, we got to hang on so we get to the Final Four. Plus, we were playing into a 25-mile-an-hour wind, which that didn't help either. And that's kind of why the halves were so crazy. We were up 2, then they scored 3, and then, of course, we we held the lead and we obviously won it. But I just think there's this belief in each other and what we do as a team, how we approach the game that has sustained us even when we're not playing as well as we'd like. And but I've actually thought this was very possible since about our fourth or fifth game, when I saw us start to tick up and really have moments. There were still moments more than they were sustained moments, but I really felt like that's different. That's going to be tough to deal with. I mean, West Texas hadn't had a game closer than 4-1, and all of a sudden they're down 3-0 to these crazy young kids out of Columbus, Georgia. They didn't know it hit them, and then they of course they're a great team, so they fought back. But then again, we fought back again and again and again, and in the end, we deserved to win. We were better. If you watch the highlight package at the end of the game, all the highlights, there's 11 clips of us almost scoring goals. There's 4 or 5 of them. And that was a fair indication how the game went. Now, they're very dangerous, and they certainly could have won. But I felt like in the game we deserved to win, and I was happy that we did. And now next up, another great team and FC Motown. So it'll be another challenge, and, of course, the travel challenge is another whole kettle of fish that we've had to deal with as well. So,
Coach, what an incredible journey. You're in the semifinals of the NPSL, started with 96 teams. Now there's 4 left. Not only do you clinch a berth in the Lamar Hunt U.S. Open Cup, which next year, I mean, you could possibly be facing Atlanta United, but that's neither here. That's down the road. I mean, I know that's not the goal right now. The goal is FC Motown. You got to go up to New Jersey. I mean, this is a very talented team, but your team is very talented as well. I've noticed just watching this playoff journey. I know those first 2 games in the Gulf South Conference were tight. I mean, they're back and forth. Won it in the 120th minute against Tallahassee SC. We had that game on Georgia Alabama Sports Live. Then you went down to Pensacola, won that game on a free kick on the header by Garcia. And then you take it on Hickory FC up in North Carolina. It was 3-1. And then you went to Midland, Texas to take on West Texas FC. I mean, just an incredible road wins by your team. And, they got the hashtag going, Road Warriors, because really that's what you guys have been doing. And what is this team capable of? You've already won 2 trophies. And by the way, those trophies look nice. That's something they can't take away from you. You are Gulf South Conference champions and Southern Region champions. But I know that the next goal has got to be NPSL national champions, which would be just an incredible accomplishment, not only for the city of Columbus, but for the entire state of Georgia. I saw you, Coach, on the podcast with John Nelson. And, this is not a Columbus guy. This is an Atlanta guy talking Columbus soccer because, he focuses on the semi-pro soccer at the state level. He's the play-by-play guy for Atlanta United, too. So that was a big deal to see you on his podcast. So it really is taking the state of Georgia by storm.
Yeah, I think what really has I think been fun for us and the team is it's really about them connecting with each other. It's about creating this belief that you can only get through training. And the guys, I had a long chat with the guys the other night about, how you become successful. And it's not by this, this great thing I'm going to do. It's about what you do every day, who you are every day, what you do when like the old quote, when nobody's looking, but also how you approach the off time. Because that's one of the things that's new for the guys is they have all this free time during the day, so they could be getting in trouble. They could be doing nonsense. But instead, they're all here to build themselves as players, get ready for the college programs. Most of them want to go pro. So there's this belief that, okay, if I do this way, it will help me along that journey. And what's happened is one of our players, and I won't use the name because it was shared with me by somebody else, was saying the other day, for the first time in his entire career, he knows he's part of something bigger than himself. And it's, I told the guys, I said, look, very few times in our careers as players, as coaches, do we get a team that touches greatness, where the sum of the whole is greater than the sum of the parts put together? So that group, you think about the Braves team when they got it going and won the World Series in was it 21?
Yep.
You think about these. Well, that's exactly kind of what's happening with us. And whether we win the title or not, that's already happened. So a piece of this team will remain with this group forever. So we've gotten 2 trophies, and that's awesome. But what's more important is they've touched greatness for a moment. And that never goes away. And, and I've been fortunate in my career to have coached a few of those teams. And I've had a lot of teams do really well, but there's a difference. And you can't define it, but you feel it. You know it. You know it intrinsically. There's internally, you know it. And this team is, for the last really 2 weeks. And Richard, you did forget Jacksonville. We also went to Jacksonville in that period of time too.
Right.
Yeah, that actually clinched the Gulf Coast Conference Championship.
so-
I did forget to mention it. Yeah, that was an incredible run. I know we didn't get a chance to see Jacksonville on Georgia Alabama Sports Live, but yeah, just what an incredible run.
We end up, there's a possibility, if you look at the next 2 games in general, if we were to advance Saturday night, Motown's very good. So, we're not looking beyond them, believe me. But if we were to advance, there's a chance we go to San Francisco. So we would have been in the last 3 weeks, Naples, Jacksonville, roughly Charlotte, North Carolina, Midland, Texas, Madison, New Jersey, and San Francisco, California. We'd have touched all 4 corners of the U.S. So it's crazy, but yeah, it's been fun. The guys are awesome. I'm actually in Richmond, Virginia right now. So Coach Wade is handling training today and tomorrow. I have a camp at my college where we have 240 kids. And so I kind of have to open the camp tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. And then I'm joining, the team's going to pick me up in Richmond, and we're going to head up to Jersey, and we're having to drive because of the airplane fiascos. It took us 16 hours to get back from Midland, Texas. Ask your cousin. He drove almost 4 hours just like I did. We were able to get half the team back on the plane, but the rest of us had to jump in minivans and drive all the way back to Columbus. And you know what? Not a single player on the 9 that went said one word negatively. The only 2 bitching or complaining, excuse me, guys, were me and Paxton. All the young guys, never a complaint. They were just like, this is great. We're happy, to talk about the season. They slept, and that's who they are, and so that's why we've been successful ultimately, because of the sacrifices they've made to each other.
No doubt. And you talked about Motown. Let's go ahead and preview them, Coach. You said they're a really good team. What are your expectations? What do you plan on seeing with them as you head into the semifinal match?
Yeah, they're a bit different than we are. We're all college guys. We don't have a single player left in our roster that will be traveling that doesn't have college. I didn't know one. Our reserve goalkeeper doesn't have any college eligibility left. Everybody else, including Jonah, who's worked as our assistant coach all year. Jonah actually has another year, the COVID year of eligibility. He's not using it because he's going to come work for me at Mount St. Mary's. But, he's looking for pro opportunities, and so if he gets one, he'll go. But every player still has college eligibility. FC Motown, I don't believe they have a single college player in their team. Jeez. They're all players who play with Red Bull or other pro teams up in that area. And for whatever reason, they're out of the cycle. Maybe they didn't get a contract this year. Maybe they're coaching now or whatever. And so they are a very experienced team. They've got a gigantic guy in the center. He's 6'7", 6'8". I think Lisnick 6'7".
Wow.
So he's going to pose a threat on free kicks and long throws. They've got a really good attacking crew. They have a guy that plays kind of an attacking midfielder that scores goals. They've got both their wingers are clever and tricky, and their center forward's quick and dynamic. And then they've got a really good player in the middle of midfield. So again, we're in the Final Four. You expect every team to be very good, and they won't disappoint because they're very good. Where they're different than maybe some of the other teams, they're more like a Naples or a Pensacola in that they're very experienced. Like Naples didn't have a single college player in their lineup either. And they were all guys who were pros looking for the next gig or, didn't get a contract this year. So they're looking. Same kind of thing. Pensacola, they had many, many older guys. They had a few college guys, but they had many older guys as well. So very veteran. We'll do what we do though. I mean, we'll attack, we'll move the ball. We'll defend when we have to, but we're going to be wide open and play. And look, we've gotten here. We're going to be who we are. I told the guys very early on, be brave, be bold, enjoy the game, be who you are. I don't want we're not going to go in and sit in and let them have the ball. That'll never be us. That'll never be a team I coach. We'll be aggressive. We'll counter press. We'll counterattack. When we get the ball, we'll make them chase us forever. Because in every game that we've had, and really the whole season, but especially the last 11, 12 games, the opponent's been just dead at the end of the game because they've had to chase us. We're averaging close to 570 completed passes a game. And to give you an idea in comparison, the average pro team's around 400.
Jeez.
So we're able.
Wow.
And a lot of our passes are just, honestly, they're so we don't have to defend, because when we have the ball, they can't attack us. So, and that's who we'll be. I mean, we went 2 games in a row in the playoffs without our goalkeeper punting or hitting a long goal kick. And if you know anything about soccer, almost every team hits long goal kicks or they'll punt the ball out. We went 2 games and we went 3 games only punting or kicking it 3 times. And that's against Jacksonville, Hickory, and West Texas. 3 of the best teams in the country. And, and we scored. How many goals did we score in those games? 10. Scored 10 goals in those 3 games. 3 against Jacksonville, 2 or 3 against Hickory, 3 against Hickory, and then 4 against West Texas FC. So we're unapologetically going to be who we are.
Coach, with the national championship being on August the 3rd, I mean, because you got FC Motown this weekend, and if you're able to advance, you could possibly be going to San Francisco on August the 3rd. With all these players except one in college, I mean, what's their college schedule looking like? I mean, are they going to go back and play collegiate soccer, because collegiate soccer is usually in the fall? What's that transition going from playing in the NPSL to collegiate soccer?
Yeah, I mean, for all of us, it's going to be very quick turnaround. I know, like the VCU boys, they have to be back August 5th or 6th. I have to be back August 6th because Division I starts around August 6th or 7th. A couple of our NAI guys will report August 1st. And so we're just going to beg, borrow, and talk to their coaches and say, look, it's a national title game, and we'll be at the mercy of their college coach. I think most will say yes. I know a couple already have. To me, that say yeah, but I get it. I get it either way. I get it if they're concerned because they most of the colleges have been great about. We've had most of our guys all year. We've only had one player recalled by his college, and they had put a minute restriction on them. They didn't want to play more than 1,000 minutes, and they lived up to it. And then they actually gave him the extra game. He played against Hickory, and then he had to go back to his school, and that was an agreement we made ahead of time. So there was no ill will on anybody's part. He was teared up because he didn't want to leave. But, again, that's just the part of it. And this is part of also working with the guys. All the coaches of all our players are friends of mine. And so we're open with each other. I've been calling them saying, hey, this kid's doing well at this kid's struggling here. So, yeah, they'll all transition immediately into their college programs. I would imagine that if I were their coach, I would probably work with them a little bit on how much they train early on. But what's also positive, even if they do go in, we're only going to train 2 or 3 times this week and play a game. It'll be the same thing next week. So we won't be killing them going into that. So I think the fact that they will be able to still, come in and, maybe get a couple sessions off during preseason, they should be fine. I mean, they're resilient kids, and they're not what I would call worn out. They will need a little break, but they won't be worn out. They'll be fine. And that's the positive side. So yeah, they're all going, like everybody's going to college except the goalkeeper, and Jonah's actually going to college because he's coming with me to do our preseason. So nice. Yeah, it's tight, but again, we we knew it was a possibility at the beginning of the year. It was way far away at that point. And now we just, again, if we get through Motown, then we'll worry about it. We haven't worried about it yet because, again, everything we're talking about now is our next challenge, and then once that's done, then we'll have to look at the challenge after that. And we'll have to look at, okay, who's available, who's gets recalled, and then, how do we approach that? And that's an issue that Motown doesn't have. It's an issue that the other two teams don't have, Duluth and the California team, because the California team are all older guys. Duluth, same type of thing. So it's just us. We're the only college team left. All the rest of them are guys from the area. They may have a college player or two sprinkled in, but again, that's kind of, you put a trophy on the line. That's what you want. You want the opportunity to go play for it. And so at this point, we have a saying, two things we always want. 92 other teams in the country put their stuff away, and their stuff's gone. They're done. And we always want to be training at Connect the next day. So that's our big goal. We want to train at Connect the next day. So our goal right now is to be able to train at Connect Tuesday. If we're training at Connect Stadium Tuesday, that meant that we're playing on Saturday. If we're not, that means that, it didn't go our way up there, and we're off to our next adventure. And it's win-win for all of us because we've already done really, really well. And I'm not saying we're satisfied or all that. I'm just saying that we've already proven that this organization is a viable force in soccer and that Columbus will support a winner. The amount of text, Facebook messages, phone calls that I've gotten about the success of our group and each of the players have gotten and the comments I've gotten from people, the watch party, who would have ever guessed 4 months ago that they have 20, 30 people at a watch party for us?
Right.
At 9 o'clock on a Saturday night, nobody cares. And all of a sudden there they are, and they do care. And that was our goal. Our goal was to become a viable force within a community, not just to kick the ball around, but for people to know who we are, to know our kids and care about them, and our kids to care about them. And, and thanks to opportunities to be on programs like yours, we're able to tell our story. Channel 8 has done an unbelievable job covering us and giving us that early momentum. And just, I think the guys have, again, like they always say, the guys have done the work, and I'm proud of them.
Yeah. And Coach, we want to say thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate everything that you've done for us this year, which is allowing us to broadcast games and being part of what was an incredible first year. And I'm glad we established this relationship, Coach, because we're going to be hitting on you throughout the season, catching up what's happened at Mount St. Mary's. So thank you so much, Coach. Good luck this Saturday. We'll be cheering you on, and hopefully we're talking again next week for the national championship.
Yeah, right after practice at Connect, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Coach, thank you so much.
Have a great evening. Thanks a lot.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're wrapping up the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. You're watching right now the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show that is presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. Get ready to smile. We'll be right back after this.
Are you ready to save big on a new Chevrolet?
Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet for the Chevy Summer Drive. Choose America's #1 compact SUV, the Chevy Equinox, discounted up to $6,000 off. Or powerful full-size Chevy Silverados for up to $14,750 off. And fuel-efficient Chevy Malibus up to $5,750 off. Make your way to Glenn Smith Chevrolet.
Get ready to smile.
Welcome back, everyone. We're going to wrap up the show now. I want to say thank you to Jack Patterson. I want to say thank you to Brett Teach. We're cheering on Columbus United. I will say, Richard, watching all the games, great job by the broadcasters, but no one's been as good as you were for that first playoff game that they could have lost. Remember, went to double overtime?
Yeah.
We were like, oh, man, they won the first game. They'll be happy with that. No, they keep treading along. And I want to say thank you to my cousin Paxton Bush. He's done a great job with that organization, helping it, just director of operations on game days, and does so much for them. And now they're heading into the semifinals. But remember, tomorrow we have Brooks on Rance Gillespie. And next Sunday, we're going to start the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. We have a show on Sunday. We have a show on Wednesday live from Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. We got a couple of say the program interviews. And then we're going to be really, now that we've had Jack on, we're going to start really diving into team-by-team previews for high school football, talk SEC previews as well, and even get into some NFL predictions a ton. We're going to be talking about, and even some other sports like volleyball and softball, flag football. We're going to try to preview them a little bit as well. So, Richard, thank you so much. We are live from our vacations. When you not talk to us again, Richard will still be on vacation, but I will be back at home, and then next Wednesday, live from Glenn Smith Chevrolet in GMC. Richard, any final thoughts?
No, that's just looking forward to the opening ceremony of the Olympics on Friday.
All right. Well, me too, man. It should be a lot of fun, and we'll be talking, seeing what's happened with those USA men's team. My goodness, they have not looked great, but we're hoping for the best as they head into the Olympics. From Richard Holdridge, Jack Patterson, Brett Teach, I'm Thrift Barringer saying good night, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show. Thank you for watching the Georgia Alabama Sports Live Show presented by Glenn Smith Chevrolet and GMC. You're ready to smile.